Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. Live from Austin, Texas, broadcasting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
We are joined by Alfred Adask, who we had on, I don't know, 6 months ago or so, when 60 Minutes had a special about himself and others, just demonizing him like he's incredibly evil. And then all he does is talk about the Constitution, Bill of Rights, common sense. And, of course, we discussed then the fact that they're rebranding terrorism off of Al-Qaeda over to domestic groups that want to get our republic back. And his website is adask.wordpress.com. Here's his bio. I'm Alfred Adask, and the author of virtually all of the text published on this website. And then it just goes into all the things that he's done over the years fighting the globalists. So we're going to be talking to him for the rest of the hour and taking your calls. And then I've got news items. I want to get his take on things happening in the news and what he thinks of the globalists, because they know that their vaccines are killing people. They openly now admit that the government's growing the opium in Afghanistan and shipping it into the U.S. and having the troops grow it. It came out in federal court in Chicago. This is, again, is in the El Paso Times, Narcosphere News. It's up on Infowars.com. Federal filing where when they bust these narco-terrorists now, they're bringing into court the fact that they work for the CIA, bringing narcotics in. And the federal government's saying, yes, national security, it's true, but still we want them to go to jail. That's kind of like Hal Turner, who attacked me for like a decade, saying I was covering up for Israel when we're critical of Israel. And he used to work with Sean Hannity, and he would say, kill this federal judge, get that federal judge, this judge needs to die, and never get in trouble. And I said, that guy's a Fed. And I said, you better watch it, buddy. They'll set you up. Well, people hacked his email and got his emails from the FBI where they were handling him. And so he was no longer useful, so they put him in jail. And what he's facing the trial right now for stuff he was ordered to do on record. And the FBI came in and said, Mr. Turner is our highest level national security operative. Not an agent, but he does work in our employ. And but go ahead and put him in prison. See, that's a message all you guys need to get through your head. The Sinaloa drug cartel head is in the news. Here it is right here in my little hand. It's up on Infowars.com with a link to the federal filing. You'll be on the federal court's website. They're like, yeah, we brought in tens of tons of cocaine. Yeah, we're shipping guns into Mexico, Honduras. We're shipping them into Illinois, Texas, Florida, California. That's now all mainstream news. And nobody gets in trouble except their own minions. So we're talking about a synthesis of evil that runs our society. You see, you could have an emperor, philosopher, king who wanted to build public works, wanted to educate people, and wanted to build a civilization. And we've seen maybe 20 cases of that or less in 6,000 years of recorded history. And you'll see civilizations leap forward under that because they actually take the largesse and actually build things for populations. But what happens is, and have a vision, and try to bring science to the public. The problem is they always die. And maybe their son isn't as bad, but the grandson's a psychopath. And then he has an even crazier son. And pretty soon it's Roman emperors marrying their horse. Caligula would march the horse in. It would go to the bathroom. He'd have the high priest read it like tea leaves. I'm not joking. This is mainline history. They normally gut a bull and read the guts or spill the blood all over them and how the splatters were. They would then portend. But he made them worship the horse's dung, basically, just as an act of power, an act of insanity, or burn part of the city for fun like Nero and get so decadent they commit suicide. This is what happens. The worst of the worst get in control, and you get a Stalin, a Hitler, a Mao, a Pol Pot that Zbigniew Brzezinski bragged he supported, who killed 30% plus of the people of Cambodia. And then Brzezinski writes books bragging. They brag whenever Brzezinski walks into a globalist meeting. They're like, oh, your graciousness. They get off on how many deaths they've committed. So that's my view on their philosophy. There really isn't a philosophy at all. It's just trampling and being trampled. always pressing on the nerve of power. We're the priest of power, Winston. In fact, later I want to read it. We'll hold Adask into the next hour to give him the full time here because I'm on a roll. But will you print me from 1984? You can just type in Winston, picture a boot stomping on a human face forever. It's about 10 paragraphs above that and about 5 below that. I want to read that later because that describes the full globalist system. It's a world built by sadists and psychopaths to carry out always greater and greater dumbing down and ugliness because it's beautiful to them. Liberty and independence is anathema. It's like nails on a chalkboard to these people. Alfred Adask, good to have you here with us. Give us your view on the philosophy of the parasites and what they're building and your fight against them.
Well, I can tell you that it's good to be here. First off, Alex, I appreciate you having me on. But I was one of 7 defendants that were sued back in, the case started in 2001. I wasn't added until 2006. I was the last of 7 defendants sued for the manufacture and distribution of a controlled substance, and the controlled substance was colloidal silver. All right, it wasn't heroin or cocaine or something like that, or methamphetamine.
That I can buy at H-E-B and Whole Foods here in Austin right now.
That's exactly right. And I volunteered to be fiduciary for a trust. The trust was one of the defendants in the case. They made me a defendant. We were threatened with fines. Each defendant, $25,000 per day. That's $9 million per year. I read the relevant case, and I guarantee being sued for $9 million a year focuses your attention. And I read the relevant law. And what we discovered, I read the definition of drugs in both the state and federal health code. And this goes to your notion about what their philosophy is. The Texas Attorney General wrote in part in his case, he said, the key to this case lies in determining at law, not as a matter of fact, whether the defendant's colloidal products met the definition of drug when mislabeled. And then he quotes from the Texas Health and Safety Code, section 431.002, subparagraph 14, which defines the word drug. And it says, drug means article recognized in the United States Pharmacopoeia National Formulary, any supplement to it, articles designed or intended for the use in the diagnosis, cure, mitigation, treatment, or prevention of disease in man or other animals. They're not saying man or animals. They're saying man or other animals, which means they deem man to be an animal.
And what you discovered is something we similarly discovered decades ago, and for all of us, we discovered this in different ways. In hundreds of globalist documents, and documents going back thousands of years, all governments that oppress, Hitler did it, the Babylonians did it, the Israelites did it, they would always list the slaves as not human. We listed blacks as not human. It's a legalese. They see themselves as exalted and awake, and that's what they mean in the movie They Live. When you have the glasses, they say, I've got one that can see. When you actually converse with a globalist in person, they shake in fear because and they'll say, oh, you're a human. And that's what Frank Herbert wrote about in Dune, is that the elite don't see most of us as human. Go ahead.
Well, first time I saw it, I just thought it was a mistake. Then they said man or other animals a second time in the same definition. Then I read the federal code at Title 21, Section 321, subparagraph G, subsection G, subparagraph 1. And it says, again, virtual identical definition of drugs. Drugs are for man or other animals. What we did, I realized that they are treating it, the presumption for these definitions is that we are animals. And I also understand enough about the Bible where I know that at Genesis chapter 1, sections 26 through 28, it says, on the 6th day, God created man in his image and gave man dominion over the animals, which means that as a Jew or a Christian, and probably even as a Muslim, I assume the Muslim faith has a similar notion about Genesis, although I don't know that to be true. But as a Jew or a Christian, you can't call me an animal without violating my freedom of religion. I drafted a defense in this case that was based on freedom of religion. And I said, you can't call me an animal. You can't charge me $25,000 a day based on the presumption that I'm an animal because I am a man made in God's image and I'm endowed. And then I went on with the Declaration.
And you won. And I want you to continue with this and then get into what's happening currently. But you're telling us who the globalists are. They see us as animals. But what you've hit on here is so central. Even if someone's an agnostic or an atheist,
yes,
and they don't believe in God, they need to say, I believe in a higher power, because if you don't, there's always a higher power than some king rat, some strong man, some gang, some guy named Humongous with a motorcycle gang is going to put himself above you. That's what Thomas Jefferson was saying. We're saying, buddy, we got freedom in the universe.
And if you don't get it from God, you don't get it.
That's right.
All right? That's the point to this. If you're willing to be an animal, you can be treated just like a chicken.
That's right. It's their rules. The globalists understand this. They believe they've been given the power of God to be a human, not an animal. We've got, again, this is all law.
Well, I agree, and it's not just all law. It goes back thousands of years. This is part of spiritual warfare. This isn't a new situation. It's the fun. It's the one of the essential acts of genocide is dehumanization. You can go to genocidewatch.org, and they've got a document up there.
No, they always do it. You are stating a giant, naked truth, a trillion-pound elephant in the living room, and half the audience, even though they're smart, is saying, what are they talking about? Let's go back to this point, Alfred. Now, a lot of times, you know, we stay on this topic, but I want to get into some other areas as well, straight ahead. And by the way, I've got to get you on a routine basis. You're just amazing. We'll be right back. You don't need me to tell you that humanity is in a deep crisis. Everyone can feel it. We know a tectonic struggle is now taking place between the forces of freedom and those who love darkness, bondage, and enslavement. Yes, my friends, evil is rising. But take heart, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Recently, New World Order operative Hillary Clinton admitted they're losing the info war.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
The globalists are scared. They've overreached. The future of the info war is in your hands. Join PrisonPlanet.tv. Download the thousands of special video reports, ebooks, and more, and get them out to everyone you know. Continue to spread the word about the broadcast on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and every other globalist propaganda platform. We are going to use their system against them. The info war now goes into high gear.